It's time for
DodgerHeads.
high fly ball into right field. Hey, Dodgers have won it all in 2020. Shohei Ohtani, 50-50 club. Strikes him out. There's a drive. Shohei Ohtani. Freeland hits the ball. She is gone. Birds of party, Los Angeles. Your Dodgers have won the World Series.
Hi, everyone, and welcome into DodgerHeads Live, presented by DodgerBlue.com, part of the Medium Large Sports Network. I'm Matthew. Joining me for this impromptu Saturday night, I guess it's Saturday night already, show is Bruce. We want to thank everybody for hopping in with us. I know this isn't part of our normal schedule, but we like to tell you that when big things are happening, we try to be as flexible and nimble as possible to come on and do live shows with everybody. And Bruce, we went into today with our plan to discuss Shohei Ohtani pitching on his birthday for the first time. We're certainly going to get into that, but it seems like with the way that game went, that there is also some frustration from the fans, some curious decision by Mookie Betts, sort of, one step forward with the home run and then one right back with kind of stretching the thing in. But how is your Saturday going, Bruce?
That was a frustrating game to watch for sure. And coming off the one last night, it's not feeling like that we're in the greatest place right now, but still one more game to try and avoid a sweep. So not completely down in the dumps yet.
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm sure you were on social media during the game as well. Myself and seeing our website account, and fans are upset. At minimum, the Dodgers have, as you mentioned, have lost a series to the Astros. So I believe they'd won 7 series in a row. I know their last series loss before this was to the Cardinals on the road about a month ago. I think it was June 6th to June 8th was the dates, I think, that I put in our recap that's up on DodgerBlue.com that I'm sure everybody was excited to read about because, nothing gets clicks like losses do. But no, in all seriousness, again, thank you, everybody. We're quickly. I see our audience is growing here tonight. I know, again, it was an unplanned show. So if you're with us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, we appreciate that. And if you're listening on podcast after the fact, thank you for that as well. Bruce, let's kind of get into, like I said in the opening, our plan was to discuss Shohei Ohtani, or at least to focus on that.
Yeah.
Another 2-inning start. What did you see from him? He struck out the side in the second inning, allowed the single in the first, got the double play, faced the minimum. What did you see from another 2-inning start for Ohtani?
He still looks good. I mean, it surely doesn't feel like that he's on his major league rehab assignment like he is essentially doing. It feels polished, and the sweeper looks great. The fastball was up at 101 again today. So I don't think the command hasn't been a problem either. There's a lot to like with Ohtani, I think, at this point. They're working him in very progressively and slowly, as they've said they would do. So there's not any pressure with roster limits, with the Ohtani rule or anything like that. I think he's in a good place. He has to be happy with it. The Dodgers have to be happy with it. And this was another good outing today.
Yeah, I think there are two things to kind of, I guess, look at this, right? And we'll take this discussion. We'll address both because I know that they're out there. One, it was good to see him go 2 innings again, look sharp. It's encouraging. As you mentioned, this is basically, what he would be going through a minor league rehab assignment with at this point. And he's doing it obviously at the major league level because of the two-way designation and all that stuff. The other side of the coin is a lot of people are upset that he only pitched 2 innings and that and in his last start that was only 2 innings. And in the starts before that he did back-to-back 1-inning outings. I'm assuming you're on board with this, deliberate plan that the Dodgers have set in place for him.
Yeah, there's no pressure and there's no reason to try and extend him out. The way that I look at it, every single inning Shohei Ohtani can give on the mound is a plus, and you don't need to ask for anything more and then wind up screwing the whole thing up and not having his bat in the lineup. Dave Roberts said it on his mid-game interview today with Ken Rosenthal, where he wasn't even sure if and when at some point this season he was going to get to the full 5 innings. That they're purely start by start, see how he feels, and every inning that he can give is a plus. So there's really no reason to stretch it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's one thing. Dave Roberts, I believe it was so not Ohtani's his second start that he made because it was at home. I was there for it, and Dave was asked kind of about the progression and things like that. And when he sort of thought a rough estimate would be of Ohtani getting built up and stretched out as a like quote unquote normal / full starter. And Dave said, it kind of caught me a little bit by surprise. Dave said, like, I'm not sure if that's going to happen this year. And I should have pulled up the quote, but you alluded to the fact of he doesn't even know what that looks like for Ohtani this season. And so as you mentioned it, and he reiterated that point with Ken Rosenthal on the Fox broadcast today, that, yeah, you know, the Dodgers, they are looking at these innings from Ohtani as basically just extra. And on one hand, I can understand it because he is coming back from obviously a second right elbow surgery, things like that. On the other hand, it does like strikes me as a little curious, kind of long. Like I don't think Ohtani should have gone 3, 4, 5 innings today. The way I know some of our viewers who are joining us tonight, I know a lot of people on social media during the game were clamoring for. But to hear that, you know, the Dodgers maybe don't even see him getting to 5 or 6 this season, even if it gets later into the year, like that struck me as a little surprising, just because this is technically now his second year removed from having the elbow surgery. If this was last season and Ohtani was trying to pitch, I would fully be on board. But how cautious they are still being, like, on one hand, like I can see both sides of the coin, but it does strike me as a little curious.
I think that it's important for us to look at the way that they've talked about it and know that it's not that they're eliminating the fact that he could get to 5 innings and get fully built up. It's just that it's not a sure thing. So we still absolutely could get to October and have Ohtani throwing 5 inning starts or maybe even pitching into the 6th like that. That's still well within the realm of possibility. I think that at this point, as much as anything, it's about not wanting to make a promise and then not have that promise be met. If something goes wrong in the progression, if Shohei doesn't recover from a start as well as they expect him to, anything like that could throw off the progression and then not lead to full starts by the end. So right now it's there just isn't I know I've said this already a couple of times here, but there isn't the pressure of with every other starter, you have 13 pitching spots on the roster and your starting pitchers need to give innings in order for the whole thing to work. The Dodgers this whole season have been running into walls with trying to fill innings, and it's been a constant problem. Ohtani doesn't fit that because he doesn't count as a pitcher on the roster. So anything he can give is a plus, and they just want to be as careful as possible because the number one thing is making sure that nothing goes wrong, and then you have to take his bat out of the lineup.
Yeah, that's a great point. Sorry, wrong comment. Bob Tan is saying Ohtani could go scoreless 7. I mean, talent-wise, at some point, sure. Today, no. Like he's just that's the other reality too. Is like at best, from a physical standpoint, Ohtani probably is not pitching more than like 3 1/3. Like maybe he gets into the 4th inning, but at best case scenario right now, from a physical standpoint, he's probably not conditioned necessarily to go more than 3 innings. And so I think that's something to keep in mind. Now, if you want to be frustrated by it, then okay. But if you think that the Dodgers, you know, they go into his starts with a pretty deliberate plan. I mean, look, we saw it a few outings ago when his pitch count was really low. His pitch count was lower in his second start than it was in his first. And they didn't say like, oh, you only threw, I think it was 18 pitches. They didn't say, oh, it was 18 pitches. Go back out for a second inning. No, they said our plan was 1 inning. That's what we're sticking with. The plan against the Royals was 2 innings. That's what they stuck with. The plan today, 2 innings / 40 pitches. I think Dave Roberts said is about the max. That's what they stuck with. I think he ended at like 31 pitches or something like that. So yes, I mean, it's like he's not in a scenario where it's like 2 innings or 5 and the Dodgers are choosing 5. But anyway, we have a couple super chats from that we want to get to. And as a reminder, if you are with us on YouTube, if you want us to answer a specific question or address a certain topic, super chat is the way to go. Bruce and I will stop kind of what we're doing as quickly as we can and get to those. So let's get to these. The first one's from Carlos. Bruce, Outman is playing good. Do we see him soon? I know Outman was somebody you and Jeff discussed in your last show. Jeff, I think, was probably pushing the James Outman agenda a little bit more than you might have been. But do you see a scenario where maybe he comes up?
It would take an injury, I think, at this point. Like it was an indicator to me when they brought up Histeri Ruiz the other day when there was a roster spot open and it wasn't Outman, that they certainly aren't looking to give Outman any extra at-bats in the big leagues right now. So, I mean, he's doing well in AAA. He's doing what he can. The strikeout rate is still very high. So I think that provides some doubt over whether he can come up to the big leagues and suddenly have it figured out. It's been a while since he put everything together in the major leagues. So right now he's just in AAA as depth. And I think that is how it's going to stay until something changes. Like hopefully an injury doesn't happen, but that might be what it takes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I part of me wonders if maybe Ruiz is here just to kind of see what you have with him for a week or 2 weeks. And then maybe they feel like, okay, let's give Outman another shot. But yeah, I mean, I think the fact that Outman wasn't the first guy and they did call up an outfielder, I think, as you mentioned, was sort of telling. Carlos, thank you for that super chat. Our next one is from Kevin. He says, Dodgers versus good teams, they can't win. Yeah, this is, I feel like this narrative is starting to go around. I mean, it's the Astros are the best team they've played this year, right? I mean, is that a fair statement at this point?
They're as good as anybody in baseball right now.
Yeah. And the Dodgers and Astros both went into this series with the two best records in baseball since June. The Astros, I think, were 20-8, and the Dodgers were like 19-10 or something right around there. I'd have to look at what the Dodgers record. I could try pulling it up really quick. Do you have any strong thoughts to this? I mean, I don't necessarily believe it. I know you're probably going to be in the same boat.
The Dodgers went through a really, really difficult portion of the schedule. That last like month and a half, there were tough teams on the road. The overall winning percentage of the teams they were playing was way tougher than it's going to be for the rest of the year. And the Dodgers still did really well in that stretch. That was something Jeff and I spent a lot of time talking on one of the Thursday shows. I think it was last week's, that they went through the gauntlet and still played really well, won a lot of games. And that was a really good sign for how they're going to do the rest of the year, because the schedule from here on out is much weaker than what they just went through June and the end of May.
Yeah, and I think the other thing, I know the Astros are dealing with injuries, and the point that I'm going to bring up, which Eat Crab is saying, the question is, will the Dodgers ever be healthy? That is the other side of this coin, is the Dodgers aren't healthy, and they're using pitchers in, whether it's, relievers in this case today, Jack Little type, or starters in other series, that wouldn't be on the mound for them if, Blake Snell was around, Tyler Glasnow was around, Emmett Sheehan, which Sheehan is going to be starting Sunday. And Blake Trinan's also, he's still hurt. Michael Kopech is hurt again. And so that is a factor. And I pulled it up right now. The Dodgers are 20-18 against teams over 500. They're tied with the Tigers for the best record in baseball. The Tigers are 22-17 against teams over 500. The Astros are taking care of business. They're 27-19 in those games. So I think the biggest point is, like, it's not as if the Dodgers are 5-20 against teams over playoff caliber teams type thing. If that was the case, then sure, like, there may be some cause for concern there. But I think there are a bunch of different factors, and also I know people don't like to hear this, but the reality is, with the baseball schedule, it could match up, it could line up so that you face a World Series caliber opponent from, here we are, July 4th to July 6th, and you're either dealing with injuries, or maybe you're starting, like, your rotation doesn't necessarily line up, like it is the back end of yours, and you're getting their aces, and sometimes it's lopsided. Like, the individual matchups and series sort of need to be broken down, each one kind of on its own, and that's not necessarily something that's going to do. I know it's easier just to look at the record against 500 teams, but as you mentioned, they, in my opinion, like, when the Dodgers went through that 29 game stretch, I thought, hey, like, just play 500, basically, even if you're a game below 500, just survive it. They came out of that with a commanding lead in the NL West. And I know people are questioning out, maybe the NL West isn't all that good and stuff like that. But the reality is, the first step to the playoffs is winning your division. And the Dodgers, I think it's important to realize, they still do have the best record in the National League, tied for the best record in baseball.
Everything has felt so good over this last month for the Dodgers. There's been so many good things, and I get it that with these two games both being pretty frustrating losses to a team that everybody in Dodgerland hates, like, I get the frustrations boiling over, but you definitely have to stay grounded and remember that the last month has been almost nothing but good things. So there were losses that were bound to come on the schedule, and the Astros are a flaming hot sword right now that the Dodgers ran into these last 2 days, and they still have a chance to not be swept tomorrow.
Yeah. Real quick, before we get to more of these super chats, I do want to read this. Blake is at the stadium for us today, and he asked Shohei Ohtani about his progression as a pitcher and when he could potentially get into the third inning. Basically, Ohtani said the Dodgers are he and the Dodgers are taking things one step at a time, not going to take on any unnecessary risks, and they're just basically following a plan that Ohtani and the Dodgers have set in place. And so, yeah, I mean, again, like, I know that it can be frustrating for fans, but they're not going to go into if the plan, again, I'm going to sound like broken record. If the plan is to pitch 2 innings, that's what they're going to do. And short of, I guess, Ohtani throwing 9 pitches in 2 innings, like, maybe there is somewhat of a discussion of, like, hey, how are you feeling? Like, that wasn't anything really. Like, do you want to go back out there for a third to at least start it? Sure. But short of an extreme scenario like that, they're going to stick to their plan. And as you mentioned, it's the long game. It's making sure that he's around in October, because if something happens on the pitching side, it's going to then impact your lineup. And people are worried about that. The offense already. What's going to happen when you take out Ohtani from the leadoff spot?
The Dodgers are a great team when Shohei Ohtani's hitting. They're an even better team when he's also pitching. They're not as great a team if you rush it or take a risk and then all of a sudden he's not hitting or pitching. So the biggest thing is just making sure Ohtani's on the field. So they're going to continue to be as careful as they can possibly be. And even if you get to October and Ohtani's only stretched out enough to start one game in the postseason series and throw 3 innings, great. As long as he's batting leadoff every game, that's what they need.
Yeah. Bob is saying that I'm front office confirmed. I'm not sure if he means that as an insult or praising me. I'm going to take the positive route and say thank you. Oscar is saying Ohtani's not that good. He strikes out way too much. I mean, look, like, if you don't think Ohtani's a good hitter, I probably can't change your mind. He does fall into lulls like every other hitter in this sport of chasing, and we saw it last season, and he went on to win MVP, have become the first 50-50 player in MLB history. So look, like, things happen, and Bob is clarifying here that it was positive. So thank you for that, Bob. Sometimes we're not sure when we're coming off a loss, Bruce. We never know if people are being sarcastic or actually being kind to us.
100%.
Laura is always kind. I know she's in here again today, and her super chat says, "Does anyone believe Glasnow will come back and play through the postseason?" So yeah, if Glasnow is starting, he's been on his rehab assignment. It's basically ending. He's going to be back this upcoming week, probably against, I think Wednesday seems to be
right.
kind of the likely date for his return. Are you worried about his longevity and if he'll be around in October?
Of course. I think that's the $1 million question is, does Tyler Glasnow even know how to keep himself healthy? Like, there was so much talk coming into this season and spring training that they changed the delivery. There was changes made to try and keep him on the field. They thought they were in a good place, and then he got hurt pretty quick again. So it seems like it's just a guessing game of whether Glasnow will be able to stay healthy or not. The only thing you can do is get him back on the field, which is about to happen, and then just, see what happens and hope that he is able to stay out there.
Kind of related to all this, because I know I had this thought, is considering Glasnow's health history, especially his trouble this year where it was really confusing for everybody, it seemed like, because I am a little bit, are you surprised that he's already returning this, in 5 days from now type thing, instead of maybe taking it a little bit more cautiously? Or is it a matter of, it would be worse if he pitched, made 2 more starts on his rehab assignment and got hurt there rather than trying to contribute for us?
Yeah, ultimately, once he's stretched out enough to pitch in big leagues, which he is now, he threw 78 pitches in the last start, then those pitches need to be with the Dodgers, because he's a good big league pitcher, and it's kind of just wasting his talent to be in AAA. So I'm not surprised that they're bringing him back up. He has just as much risk to get hurt in AAA as he does up in the big league. So might as well take advantage of whatever innings he has. It isn't a very positive way to look at it, but this is a guy who's getting paid a lot to be a frontline starter for the Dodgers. When he's healthy, stretched out, capable of throwing, then you get him up to the big leagues and get what you can.
Yeah. And we have a couple more. We have some quotes here from Dave Roberts speaking after the game today. He reiterated that the plan was 2 innings max for Shohei Ohtani. He didn't want to change from what they kind of communicated and agreed to basically before the game. And then Robert said, quote, we're not in a place to just let him go, end quote. Then kind of, to the point you and I were sort of discussing and kicking around, Dave Roberts did say that he could see Ohtani getting built up to 5 or 6 innings this season. So this is kind of a classic Dave contradicting himself. He said, 10 days ago that he's not sure if that's the case. He just told Ken Rosenthal during the broadcast, I don't know if that's going to be the case. And now here we are. Hey, maybe Ohtani will get up to 5 or 6 innings. So it makes sense, as you mentioned, like there is enough time certainly for that progression. And I think it's possible that he doesn't get to the 5 or 6 innings maybe until September type thing. And then it's, and as you mentioned, it's just about the playoffs at that point. And if you can get 4 or 5 innings from Ohtani in a playoff start and he's your leadoff hitter, I think you're in a good place. Real quick, here, Oscar, I see your question here. I'm gonna mark it for us right now. We have a few more super chats that we need to get to, and then we'll go back to some game stuff that's not necessarily Ohtani specific. 300 says the Astros are hitting almost like they knew what is coming. He says, kidding. Kasparius and Noah Davis were horrible yesterday, and Robleski had his first bad inning today. The Conforto Ruiz move was poor. So yeah, a few things to unpack with this. I know Oral Hershiser said on the broadcast that maybe Kasparius was tipping pitches yesterday. I was listening to David Vassay after the game, and he brought up that possibility as well. Dave Roberts didn't mention it in either after last night's game or today. So I don't, and if he was, I don't know if that, like, they don't typically come out and volunteer that information. If they're asked, then maybe you get an answer there. But the Conforto Ruiz stuff, kind of that management, what did you think about how that ended up unfolding?
I didn't like it very much. I think that with Abreu out there not feeling good about his command, the ball was kind of spraying all over the place. Miguel Rojas already had a great game at the plate and has been looking a lot better lately. I think you should know that by sending up Conforto there, the Astros were going to counter with Hader since he was already up and ready to go in their bullpen. So personally, I would have just let Rojas hit against Abreu because I'd rather have a guy who is already red hot on the day, even with the right on right matchup, face the pitcher who seems to be not having his best stuff today, than go to the best closer in baseball.
Yeah. And I think if you then I think Dave, kind of backed himself into that corner of then, like, he invited Hader into the game more or less at that point. And I think if you do that, like, just stick with Conforto. And look, I know I'm well aware of his struggles this season. I'm well aware that it's left on left and all that stuff. At least he's somewhat, like, hot recently. And I think he still is a better opportunity than Ruiz, who is a rookie kind of, over, I don't want to belittle him, but sort of overmatched in that scenario. But yeah, that backfired on the Dodgers pretty poor, pretty bad.
I'll depart from you there. I didn't have a problem with sending up Ruiz once they went to Hader, just because I think Hader is such a nightmare left on left. Like that's just impossible to ask a guy to do. But I think that's the part that you got to think ahead and know that you are going to have to do that. And you're going to be burning Conforto if you, like you said, invite Hader into the game. You don't ever want to invite Josh Hader into the game. I think your chances of winning just immediately go down when you do that.
Yeah. All right. A couple more super chats. Carlos with another one. He says, we're tied for number one in the league. I don't know. Was he using emojis or something or on base? Yeah. Sorry, Carlos. This isn't displaying for us. And then he says, number one in the NL, number one in the division. I'm assuming he's talking about records, and have the number one offense. And we are still not full form. I think we'll be fine. Yeah. I mean, this is a lot of what Bruce and I sort of expressed. And look, I understand in the moment after back-to-back losses, especially the way, and Bruce, you were there yesterday. So did you stay the entire game?
I did. I have a very staunch rule with myself. I never leave early, and I wasn't going to break it yesterday, regardless of how ugly it got.
I like that. Let's save that thought, because I'm the same way, but let's save that thought. We'll close with that when we answer some questions here tonight. Christopher says, confident we can beat the Astros in the World Series. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not any less or more confident after these two games than I would have been if you had asked me this question, on Thursday night. Bruce, are you feeling any differently?
There's a very, very long way to go. I think both these teams are top class in the league, so you don't know who's going to be healthy by the time the World Series rolls around. You don't know who they're going to have healthy. Like, it's impossible to predict that here on July 5th. These regular season series just don't indicate anything to me over who can win in a postseason series.
Yeah. Max says, I was at the game. We will be okay. Too many miscues. Don't understand pinch hitting Miggy Rowe regardless of the matchup. Bad base running by Mookie too. Yeah, I mean, we just discussed the Miguel Rojas decision and how that sort of unfolded and backfired on the Dodgers. The Mookie Betts thing I do want to get to. And Oscar, like, it wasn't a super chat, but Oscar had asked a few times. He wanted us to discuss Mookie's base running mistake. I saw Oscar also follow up with wondering if there was anything from Dave Roberts on it. And he basically, what I've seen so far, and again, we'll have all these videos up on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching with us live on YouTube, stick around. Blake is getting those uploaded right now. If you're not on YouTube, come to the channel, Dodger Glue 1958, once we're done here, and you'll be able to see Ohtani, Mookie Betts, or I'm not sure if Mookie's speaking yet, excuse me, Ohtani, Dave Roberts, and whoever else talks in the clubhouse today. What Dave said, kind of a short quote that we have right now available, is that Mookie needs to, quote, use more caution. And yeah, I mean, he forced the issue. To me, I boiled that down to kind of a player who is pressing, is aware of the struggles he's had, and is trying to make something happen for the team. And so, it came from the right spot, I guess. I'm losing my train of thought. His intentions were positive, and but it just wasn't the time to do something like that.
No, it was horrible. That you just can't do that. And there was absolutely no chance he was going to get to third base. It wasn't even like it was a close play. And that's the kind of situation you can't run there if it even is going to be a close play. The only way that you try and get third base on that situation is if you know you're there standing up, and that wasn't even close to the case. So Mookie, he knows he's better than that. He's going to adjust, but that wasn't the only boneheaded base running mistake the Dodgers made in this game. Andy Pages got very lucky because earlier in the game with 2 outs, he stole second base, the throw got into center field, and he just ran to third when he should have been dead to rights, and the Astros couldn't take advantage of it. Luckily, he was safe and wound up scoring on a Rojas single, but he should have been out there too. So were 2 different examples today of just really, really bad base running that the Dodgers need to clean up.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I thought for sure as Pages was running towards third and that throw was going in, I thought, oh man, he's about to be out right now, like pretty easily. And I mean, if it wasn't offline, then as you mentioned, he would have been.
It was the same thing. 2 outs in that situation cannot go unless you know you're there standing up.
Right. All right. So those are all the super chats we have. Thank you, everybody. Again, if you're with us on YouTube and you want us to answer a specific question or address a certain topic, super chat is the way to go. Bruce and I will stop what we're doing. They also help support our channel and keep these live shows going for you guys, and also help us grow. As Jeff has mentioned it, I know several times, we're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers. We're at 80. We're just under 88. So close to 90. I think once we get to 90, we'll be able to make a pretty good surge towards 100. But thank you. And if you're not with us on YouTube, if you're watching on Twitter or Facebook, we appreciate that as well. Maybe come over and check out our YouTube channel at some point, Dodger Blue 1958. All right. I mean, I think that's kind of the gist of it. So let's open it up to some questions. And if you, as a reminder, just start it with the word question in all caps. It makes it easier for Bruce and I to pick them out as you guys are posting them. And while those are coming in, Bruce, I want to get back to the question that I asked you, because you mentioned you were at the blowout game. I am the same way. Like if I'm at a game and the team that I am there to watch is winning by a bunch, stick around. It's fun, right?
Yep.
If they're losing by now, I have not seen as bad. Obviously, nobody had. It was the worst loss in Dodger Stadium history, 17 runs last night. The thought crossed my mind. I am like you, like, hey, if they're losing, like I'm here. Like I stay when they win, I'm going to stay when they lose. However, with last night being an 18-1 game and the fireworks, which I need to preface this with, I'm not big on fireworks.
Me neither.
I might have just folded it up and left a little early last night to get home.
I just couldn't let that happen to my personal ego, because then I would know for the rest of my life, there was a Dodger game that I did not have to leave early and chose to leave early. That's something that cannot be fractured in my mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. And mind you, I'm saying I was at home last night, covering the game from home. So it had I been in your position, like I do feel like if you get to the 6th inning, which I think was it the 6th inning when it really broke open, or was it the 5th?
It all blended together. I think it was the 6th. I don't know.
Like I do feel like once you get to that point, maybe like you just stick around. And as much as I'm saying like I don't care about the fireworks, the reality is a lot of people did stay for the fireworks show. I know it was a sold out crowd, so you could still watch the game. And you and I, not big on fireworks, then hey, let's leave once the 9th ends, still beating traffic, and so it's a win-win. But yeah, I don't know. It crossed my mind. Last night would have been the first time. I'll leave it at last night would have been the first time where I would have been kind of tempted, and I would have given it some thought. Whereas before, I'm like you, like no, like I'm just not. I'm here no matter what's happening. At
the very worst, you get a novel experience to say you were at the worst blowout loss in Dodger Stadium history and did not leave early, so got something out of it. That's true.
All right, let's see what questions we have. Foxy Cinnamon saying YouTube notifications failed tonight. Apologies for that. Glad you're able to join us, even if it is a little bit late. Blue Heaven wants to know, is Blake no longer with Dodger Blue? Blake is still with Dodger Blue and is integral to helping us run the website each day. He is at the stadium tonight, and so that's why he's not on the live streams. And I'm assuming this question is coming from just Blake not necessarily being on the live streams as often. It's when Blake and I are kind of figuring out who's covering games from the stadium. It's obviously if we're at the stadium, we can't then be on because we're getting the post-game stuff and things of that nature. So that's why you haven't necessarily seen Blake. If he's not, he hasn't been at the stadium, but he's been helping from home. And we also have a great rotation here with Bruce and Jeff Jeff and Anthony. I know Daniel has been mixed in a little bit, so that's kind of where things stand. But yes, Blake is here. All right, let's see what questions we have here. First one, Eden wants to know, you guys think Will Smith will keep this up? He really doesn't look like he's slowing down.
This feels like the full evolution of the professional hitter, Will Smith. And the thing that gives me encouragement to think this will continue is he's as fresh as he's ever been. And they're being very, very punctual about making sure he's getting rest. Dalton Rushing is up in the big leagues for that reason. And I think that part has worked really well so far. Smith is getting more off days worked in now than he was with Austin Barnes last year. And we saw how it slowed him down this year. They're being very careful about it. So I don't see a reason why Will Smith will regress other than like if you want to throw in just natural regression because it's hard to bat 333 in the major leagues, maybe. But I don't think that I see anything changing about his approach and how well he's, doing what he can control.
Yeah, I agree with you. For me, outside of, maybe some normal regression in baseball where, he drops down to hitting 315 or 310,
right,
something along those lines. The biggest thing is going to be just staying healthy. And unfortunately, it's been some fluky things at times over the past couple of years. So in some sense, there's nothing you can really do about that. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think as long as he's able to stay healthy, then this should be the Will Smith that you see. I mean, we've seen it in the first half. Pretty much every year he's been up. It's just been something either fatigue and or injury has impacted him in the second half. Carlos says, do you think Friedman or Gomes have any input on who plays and who doesn't, or is that decision solely on Roberts? I can tell it is a collaborative decision amongst the front office, Dave Roberts, the coaches, the training staff of how people are feeling with relievers, usage type thing and matchups, and Hae-Sung Kim not facing left-handers. Like that's not just Dave Roberts making that decision. I think that is definitely coming with input from the front office and their data people and their analytics people that have looked at his swing and matchups and things of that nature. So yes, if I know Dave Roberts, when we send out the lineup, he always gets blamed for why is so-and-so playing or where is so-and-so. It is not only Dave Roberts. So if you want to be upset, then just blame everybody, but it is not just him. Let's see. Scooter Booter says, they say Snell is rehabbing next week. After that, does he need more assignments before activating? Yeah, so Blake Snell's going to, I'm not 100% sure if Dave Roberts has set a number, but it's going to be 3 or 4 rehab starts, similar to Tyler Glasnow, to get built up to, kind of the 5 innings type thing before he's back. So there'll be a few starts there. Oscar says, why is our lineup struggling so bad? Our record indicates that we are in first place, but let's be honest, our team is not playing winning baseball. Just look at Freddie Freeman's body language. I mean, Bruce, what's your interpretation of the lineup? And I haven't noticed anything about Freeman's other than like personal frustration, but that's not like negative from like he's upset at teammates or anything.
Yeah, Freddie, there were certainly times in the last like month or so where he didn't have his normal body language, but that was all like inward because he was having the second worst month of his career. So I don't blame him for that. I don't feel like the lineup is struggling very bad. That's still a top offense in baseball. And when somebody's struggling, somebody else is picking up the slack. That's kind of what Jeff and I were touching on Thursday. When Freddie's in a slump, Will Smith is playing great. When, there's just always somebody that's playing like an all-star. So I don't think the offense is in a bad place.
Yeah. I think, again, some of this might just be, look, we're doing this live show after back-to-back losses. We just went over the loss on Friday night was particularly ugly. So it could feel like things are worse than maybe they truly are. All right, let's see what other we have a super chat. Timmy says, if Hayward hit 240 and still got DFA'd, will Conforto meet the same fate eventually? Also, I heard Freeland is starting at third again. Let's kind of maybe go backward, work our way backwards with this. Alex Freeland, I know, is somebody you obviously follow, you cover prospects in depth. Do you see Freeland kind of entering the picture at some point? I know Dave Roberts has said so far the plan is Kike Hernandez, Miguel Rojas, and some Tommy Edman at third base for the time being.
I definitely think they're going to be giving him plenty of innings at third base in AAA to see how he adjusts to it. He's played almost exclusively shortstop, like since Hae-Sung Kim got called up to the big leagues. It's been all Freeland at shortstop for Oklahoma City. Now they brought up Owen Miller from AA. So there's going to be some shortstop innings to be filled so that Freeland can move over to third. They'll give him a chance to see what he looks like there. I don't think it's going to be a tough adjustment because he's a good left side defender. That usually is a pretty easy transition to make. The thing that I would think is they'll spend the next couple of weeks. For now, Rojas is playing good enough, and Kike, I think they always feel all right with at third base to plug that for now. But if they all of a sudden decide they need a spark and they like what Freeland is doing in AAA, I don't think it's impossible he gets brought up.
Yeah, and I can't remember which. It might have been maybe two Thursdays ago with Jeff where you focused on Freeland. So Bruce had some great info and kind of how he projects Freeland at the major league level and what he's capable of. So go back. I apologize. Like, I know you'll have to search a little bit, but it's not this last Thursday that Bruce and Jeff just did, but the one before that. So a little more than a week ago, and you'll find it. It was towards the end of that live show. Bruce had a good about 5-minute segment on Freeland. All right, let's see. Bruce, speaking of you, Blue Heaven wants to know who you are. He says you look like Tim Hill of the Yankees. Have you gotten that before?
I can see it. I haven't gotten it specifically, but I saw that one pop through on the chat on my computer. I knew that was about me for sure.
Blue Heaven, this is Bruce. He joined us about a month ago now at this point, right?
Yeah, it's gone by fast.
Yeah, he does the weekly shows, as I've alluded to, with Jeff. Thursday nights, Bruce and Jeff do our live shows for us. Bruce was kind enough to take time out of his Saturday to hop on this one with myself so we could discuss. Like I said, our plan was to focus on Shohei Ohtani's start on his birthday. It was his first time pitching on his birthday, and oddly, we didn't mention it, but oddly, he struggles hitting. He got a hit today, but he's still now like 3 for 23, I believe, when hitting on his birthday. So small sample size, but just kind of strange because he usually has a very good feel and ability to capture the moment. I mean, he got to 50-50 last year with a remarkable game. So it's interesting to see that he hasn't been able to do it on his birthday just yet. All right, a few more questions here. Kevin says, are the Astros the team to beat again?
Right now, it's hard to argue against that. They're playing so well over this last stretch that I think they've established themselves. It's hard to not say the Dodgers are. So the way I'd separate it is the Astros are the team to beat in the AL, and the Dodgers still are in the NL. This series obviously might, for some people, put the Astros ahead of the Dodgers in the overall big league scheme of things. But like I said earlier, I don't put weight into future postseason predictions into a July 5th series. So I think the Dodgers and Astros are the two teams at the top.
Yeah. Bruce, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. There's a Greg who shares this. It looks like you guys have the same last name. You may or may not be related, may or may not be your dad, who I may or may not have met in the press box a few weeks ago. He's saying it's a marathon, folks. Can't cash your chips because mile 13 isn't a sub 4-minute mile. Let's face it. If this is the pitching staff in the postseason because of health issues, then we're toast. I agree with a lot of this. We preach patience on this show so much that our own viewers get upset with us and will yell and kick and scream. What I will push back on a little bit, Greg, is the Dodgers ran through the playoffs last year with a pitching staff that somehow was taped together and managed to get through. So even that, like as dire, and I was saying in October, I kept telling my wife, like, I think honestly, this might be one. My birthday is in the middle of October. I said, I might not be working this year because I don't see the Dodgers advancing very far with this pitching staff. And they proved all of us wrong. But Greg, thank you for this. And yes, he's very, I saw him saying he's very proud of you, Bruce, and he has a lot of reasons to be. I'll give you a chance. Anything you want to respond to what your dad said?
No, I was ready to say the same thing. I agree with him about the marathon thing. It's hard for everybody to stay patient, but the Dodgers had a much worse pitching staff looking last year going into the postseason than even what they have right now. So when this offense has the names that they have, and as long as the offense is healthy, which sounds like Muncy will be back, when they've got the top four of Will Smith playing like an MVP to go with Ohtani and Betts and Freeman and Teoscar and Paja's breakout, like they are always going to be dangerous as long as that offense is as good as it looks.
Yeah, we're getting now somebody saying you look like the head camp counselor on Friday the 13th.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, neither do I. Unfortunately, neither do I. But I did see somebody else say they looked up Tim Hill highlights on YouTube and can confirm that you do look like him. All right, a few more here, and then Bruce and I are gonna wind this one down. As a reminder, just start it with the word question in all caps, please. It makes it easier for us to pick out. Adam wants to know, Bruce, you don't work for the OKC team. You just cover the you want to give, it seems like we have some new viewers here, which is great. Thank you everybody for joining us. Please subscribe while you're here on our YouTube channel. But Bruce, as I'm kind of picking through some final questions, you want to give our new viewers maybe a little bit of a background on yourself?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter, bnicholas7, but I do full coverage of the Dodger minor league system. So that's rookie ball all the way through everybody that's on the doorstep of the big leagues in Oklahoma City. I don't work for any of the Dodger minor league teams, but I write for another Dodger site, Dodgers Digest, and there I put out bi-yearly, so twice a year prospect lists that go pretty deep into everybody that I like in the system. I'm going in my fourth year at Cal State Long Beach, so journalism student there, and the prospect coverage is most of what I do. And then I've enjoyed going on this show now for the last month and getting some more big league talk under my belt as well. So I'm Dodger minor leagues all the way through. And then I also obviously am a Dodger fan and watch the Dodgers every day as too.
Yeah, there we go. All right, couple more. And if you have some food stuff, Bruce and I, look, it was 4th of July. Maybe I'll ask. Oh, I'll ask you how your 4th went since the show was, I guess I don't need to ask you. I know you were at the game, but from a food perspective, Carlos with another super chat. Thoughts on Edman playing third base? Good or bad move?
It sounded like they were ready to do this for sure. And this adds some more flexibility with, we were just talking about, they don't want to force Alex Freeland to the big leagues. Like they don't want to promote him because they feel like they have to. And Tommy Edman's played third base before. He's a good enough glove that the transition shouldn't be hard. He already played there today. So as long as Max Muncy's out, just having as many guys who can play third base on the roster gives added flexibility. It should allow them to play Ha-Seong Kim a little bit more. If Edman can slide over to third base against righties, that would be great so that Kim can stick at second base and have everybody in the lineup still. So it makes sense. It's natural, and Edman should be able to handle it fine.
Yeah. And that's what everybody's been wanting, right? More Ha-Seong Kim. So anything that makes that happen should appease people. Fred it saying, please, no one ask questions about food. GI says, injuries aside, at what point does or should the seat get hot for Mark Prior? Team ERA has been regressing for the last 3-4 seasons under his care. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this complaint kind of comes in waves. It has been somewhat quiet recently, but this line of thinking I know was popping up last year, and again, especially he's getting blamed for a lot of the injuries, which I don't think is entirely fair. But I feel the ERA for the staff as a whole sort of is connected to that from the standpoint of, as I mentioned earlier, the Dodgers are relying on a bunch of pitchers that in larger roles, if not like just using them. Luis Garcia was on nobody's radar to be on the opening day roster and then pitch as much as he did. And he was the Dodgers released him today, or maybe it was yesterday. But how much blame, whether it's for injuries, and I don't think it should be, but if you have a different thought, then certainly you can share that. Whether injuries or team ERA does Mark Prior get?
Almost none. I think obviously the team ERA, you can look at Prior because he's the pitching coach, but like you said, it's all tied to the injuries. And these last couple of regular season, there's been some a lot of bulk innings going to guys that you did not expect them to go to. Ultimately, when the Dodgers have their best pitching staff, they're a great pitching staff, and when guys are hurt, then the ERA is not going to look as good. I think Prior is integral to everything the Dodgers do, and I certainly don't see that. It doesn't seem like there's any problem. The operation goes well, and even when guys are hurt, it seems like the Dodgers consistently get more out of some of those random names that get brought up than you really would expect those guys to produce in other organizations. And you have to give Prior credit for that too. So, well, I don't know if I would go and say Mark Prior is the number one best pitching coach in the big leagues right now. I certainly don't think that there's a problem, and I think he's a very good one.
All right, a couple more questions here. Max says, do you think that Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell will be able to stay healthy into October once they come back? So I know we discussed the Glasnow angle a little while ago. Snell, are you more confident in him? I imagine you are than Glasnow.
I don't know. I think I'm in a pretty similar spot with both these guys. Snell, it concerned me going into the year and hearing that he had the shoulder kind of nagging at him and he tried to push through it and then immediately hit the shelf. And in those 2 games that he did pitch, did not look good at all. So Snell, I'm worried about that shoulder if that continues to be a long thing. It's also felt like that this stretch of when he's been out has continued to extend pretty long. There's been a couple times he's thrown and then had to stop, and I always get worried when there's inconsistent timelines that can't get stuck to. So I think both those guys, I'm in a similar boat. I wish I had an answer and could say that I think they'll be healthy or they won't, but it's purely up to the injury gods. And both these guys are guys with tendencies to get bad luck with the injury side of things.
So are you like You're not more confident in one of these two being healthier than the other, kind of moving forward. You're
No.
basically split. Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's the current situation with Snell that concerns me. Glasnow has the overall body of work that he's rarely healthy, but Snell, it's not like that he's a workhorse or anything. It's been his whole career that he's had this kind of thing going on too. So both those guys are in the same spot for me of just kind of wait and see. And if you get to October and one of the two of them are healthy, it won't be a win, but you at least feel like, all right, at least there is one of them that is an injury-prone ace that made it to the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, honestly, my expectation is that the Dodgers will have one of those two available. Like, I don't really see a world where both pitchers are healthy. One, just because it's baseball. Two, because it's the two specific pitchers involved. Dodgers, Raiders, everything is saying, wait, did Robert say we could see Shohei build up to 5 or 6 innings this season? Yes. So as I mentioned, Blake is at the post-game press conferences. He's going to be uploading full videos and stuff to our YouTube channel. They might already be up. It's hard for me to kind of switch out of here as we're streaming. But yes, Dave Roberts said after the game today that it is possible. And I know we kind of joked about it because I brought up that before Ohtani's second start of the season, Dave was asked about stretching out Ohtani. And he said, I don't know what that really looks like, to be honest. He reiterated that on the broadcast today with Ken Rosenthal, saying, I don't know if he gets there. And then, like an hour and a half later, he went and said, yeah, maybe he will get to 5 or 6 innings. So that is where that's at. I think 6 would be aggressive. I think if it gets to 5, that's a win. And I think that was a point you hammered home, Bruce, right, for the playoffs. 5
would be awesome if he managed to get to 5 and be able to start one game out of a 7-game postseason series and throw 5 innings. Then that's taking that to the bank and being thrilled with it. Like, there's no problem with that at all.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Last one here, unless we get something that sneaks in. The runner on second says, I know we don't need much, but who is a solid relief pitcher to trade for? Now, I'm sort of putting you on the spot, Bruce. I don't like these questions because my stance is we don't know who's going to be available. Like, there's always, like, a player isn't available until they are, right? And so that can get kind of tricky. But if there was a relief pitcher, I'll reword it a little bit. If there was a relief pitcher that you think could be good for the Dodgers bullpen, do you have one in mind?
Yeah, this is a tough thing to approach because I don't think that they're going to be aiming at the very top of the market. If whoever does wind up being available, the Dodgers do not want to give up good prospects for relief pitchers. But the first guy that pops into my mind of if there was a world where he became available for a price the Dodgers could stomach, Pete Fairbanks for the Rays, I think would be a guy that kind of fits the organizational low slot, high ride fastball at the top of the zone with a good breaker. He would be great in the back end of the bullpen if that somehow became something that was possible.
Yeah, and his name, I believe, is Bob Nightingale, who mentioned that the Dodgers, I forgot how it was worded, but it was sort of implied that the Dodgers have interest in Pete Fairbanks if he were to be available and or somebody similar to him. So, yeah, that he, as Bruce mentioned, for a lot of the reasons he highlighted, Pete Fairbanks would be a nice addition for the bullpen, especially, Bruce Gratterall, like, yes, he's a second half option theoretically, but he still needs to come back. Blake Trinan, as much as he's getting ready to start his rehab assignment this upcoming week, he still needs to be able to do that and then stay healthy. Michael Kopech now has had, I know the knee inflammation, he downplayed it. Dave Roberts did as well, but it is a second injury he's dealing with. So, the bullpen is, as much as it was looking like it was going to be a lockdown unit with the new additions and the guys returning, like there could end up being, maybe some cracks that need to be fortified. And we're sitting here a little over 3 weeks, a little under 4 weeks from the trade deadline. It's July 31st, so the end of the month. So yeah, it'll be interesting to monitor what the Dodgers do. Do they look to address the rotation, maybe position player as well? But as a reminder, what you can count on is DodgerBlue.com will be covering all the different rumors, trades if they are making them, once they're official. And of course, on our YouTube channel, DodgerBlue1958, we'll be doing live shows, kind of spur of the moment ones when there is big things like Bruce and I did tonight with Ohtani's start. As I mentioned, it's on his birthday. Happy birthday, Shohei Ohtani. I guess we kept referencing it without wishing him a happy birthday. Unfortunately, it was not a pleasant day for the Dodgers, but hey, at least he got 2 more innings under his belt, 2 scoreless innings, struck out the side. So some positives there for Ohtani. All right, let's see. Bruce, all right, do you mind if let's get a couple more questions here that snuck in. G-Guy, too early to call, but did the Cubs win the Busch trade? What do you see from Hope and or Ferris in the next year or two?
This is a tough one because it's impossible to really call who won this trade until Hope and Ferris get closer to the big leagues and have a chance to show what they are. Because right now, if you had to make a decision, the Cubs absolutely won it. They've got a guy in Michael Busch who's north of a 900 OPS, absolutely slugging for them and has helped them take a leap to a real contending team this year. So right now, if you had to call it, it's 100% the Cubs because they're getting serious big league value. That isn't to say that the Dodgers couldn't win it long term, because I think Zaire Hope and Jackson Ferris are that talented, especially Hope. He has the potential to get to the big leagues, and if everything goes right, I just said on Thursday when there was a question asked of which Dodger prospect could be the next rookie of the year, and my answer for that was Zaire Hope, because if he continues to progress and everything goes right, he's got a number one prospect in baseball type of talent. So like I said, hard to evaluate now, have to see what Hope and Ferris do, but if you had to choose right now, it's the Cubs just because of how well Michael Busch is playing.
And I get, like, I could be kind of, I don't want to say unique, but like I could be how I am just looking at it, and I'm in a minority and not kind of how things, should be evaluated. But also for me, this trade too, it's not just Hope and Ferris. Like, the Dodgers also have Freddie Freeman at first base.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's not like they have a big a hole now that they're needing to fill. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you guys gave up on Michael Busch early for some prospects that aren't contributing yet, and you don't have a first baseman. So to me, like, and I agree with you I am not, I've joked both on these shows with you and in text messages, like, I'm not big on prospects per se. Like, I'm not saying trade every prospect. I am not the type that is going to hug, be the prospect hugger that, is kind of gets the, oh man, I'm blanking on words today. Sorry, guys. I am not having a good hosting night. Anyway, prospects I'm iffy on. I can see them going either way. But I do think that, like, the Freddie Freeman aspect also needs to be factored into this trade, at least for now. And if, once Freeman retires and if the Dodgers don't get anything out of Hope and or Ferris and Michael Busch goes on to become a perennial all-star, then like at that point, it'll be pretty definitive that the Cubs won that trade, which will be a rarity for Andrew Friedman, right? He usually ends up on the winning side of those.
And ultimately, you have to evaluate that it was 100% the right move at the time. And even right now, like, the Dodgers wouldn't go back and undo that trade because, like you said, it was a move that had to happen. Busch had nowhere to play. And even for the Cubs, he's been a first base DH. Like, it's not like they've tried him at third base and second base. Like, he would have had to play for the Dodgers. That was not ever realistic. So it was a trade that had to happen. Right now, I think both teams are happy with where they're at with it.
Yeah, that's well said. And on that note, that's where we will end this Saturday show. Again, thank you, everybody. We got up to about 2,500 people who are with us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We appreciate all the interaction. The show, I know, wasn't planned. There was kind of late notice, so our apologies on that part. I did see some complaints that YouTube also didn't send out notifications. We unfortunately can't control that. I don't know if YouTube was glitching. I don't know if maybe by the time the stream got scheduled and actually started, it was too short of a window. So our apologies there. We try to get these streams at least loaded onto YouTube as early as possible. We needed to kind of wait to see how the game unfolded tonight. But again, thank you for joining us. And if you're listening on podcast, we appreciate you as well. Whether on YouTube or Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast, please be sure to subscribe to our channels, ring the notification bells, rate us, and leave feedback. And if it's negative or positive, we are certainly open to always improving. A reminder, we will be live again Sunday night, so this show isn't replacing that. Tomorrow, it'll be Blake and Anthony with you. I'm not 100% sure on the time yet because Blake will be at the stadium, and there's going to be some all-star, the final roster, all-star reserve players and pitchers are going to be announced. And so kind of depends on if the Dodgers have selections. I'm assuming they will. And then if they make those players available to speak, if Blake ends up being there a little bit longer, then the show might start closer to 8 instead of 7. But again, just stay tuned. If you're on our YouTube channel, you should get a notification, I would hope. And then I will be back with Anthony on Tuesday, and then Jeff and Bruce will be back on Thursday, a little less than a week from now. So that's our schedule. And of course, if there's anything that kind of comes up in between that, we will do our best to hop on live the way we did tonight with everybody and kick things around. So thank you, and we will see you guys next time.